President Biden is again threatening the American people, saying that a war is inevitable unless the American people step up. Now, I'm going to break down what's going on. This is highly concerning because when the president is saying that it is on us, we need to do more, we need to provide, well, guess what? It's not all on us. So, I'm going to break down what's going on, why this is such a concerning moment, and what this means moving forward. All I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So when the President of the United States comes out and tells the American people that a war is inevitable and we have to do more, he's threatening the American people that we would be going to war with countries like Russia and China if we do not step up. And according to him, according to the White House, we need to be sending letters and emails and asking our state representatives to pass legislation to provide $60 billion to Ukraine. Now, this is where things get very interesting because right now it says to win the war with Russia, U.S. support for Ukraine's economy is essential. That we have to give them $60 billion. Because according to reports, if Russia wins this war, this is where things get interesting. It says the United States and Europe need to support Ukraine. Because if Russia wins this war, Russia will feel more empowered. If Ukraine doesn't receive this money, Russia, again, will feel more empowered. They will continue to attack Ukraine, take over more of the country. And if this happens, this may not stop Russia. Russia could then go and attack a NATO country. If an attack on a NATO country occurs, all of NATO will step forward and protect that country. That's at least according to the bylaws of NATO. Now, here's where things get very interesting. If Russia can take over more of Ukraine, and it looks like a victory for Russia, then that would empower China to potentially invade and take over Taiwan. The one thing, according to reports, the one thing that is stopping China from overtaking Taiwan is the threat coming from other countries. Well, if the United States and Europe do not step forward and protect Ukraine, that could tell China that we are not willing to put our neck on the line for another country. If that happens, China may just go after Taiwan. Now, why is this important? Well, it's because Taiwan makes the majority of the semiconductors that we use in the United States and around the world. So it's something that many countries are looking after. But here's what I can tell you. President Biden continues to threaten the American people because he said just recently, if Congress doesn't pass another $60 billion to Ukraine, then we should expect a war with Russia and eventually China. Now, if that's not a threat, I don't know what is. Because here's what China is saying. China and President Xi Jinping warned President Biden during a summit in late 2023 that Beijing will reunify Taiwan with China. That is going to happen eventually. Now, here's the concern. President Biden, he gives his Biden aides give lawmakers a grim assessment of Ukraine without more aid. I want to read this one right here. It says the president's national security aides said in a private meeting this week that Russia could win the war within weeks if Congress doesn't act. If Congress doesn't act, they're going to win the war. That was just this past week. Okay? The national security aides discussed this past week. That's the concern, is that now they're saying that Russia could win this war within weeks because Ukraine is all out of funding. Again, that puts more responsibility on the United States. Well, the reason why this funding isn't passing is one reason. Republicans say we cannot continue to give funding to other countries to secure their borders when we do not have a secure border here in the United States? How is that even something that we are considering? Why is that even an option? So, moving forward, here's what you should expect. There's going to be a lot of discussions that Russia is winning this war over Ukraine. Based off early reports, and this was very early on in this Russia-Ukraine war, that many reports, many analysts said Ukraine does not have the ability to win this war. One, they don't have the backing from other countries. The United States cannot send all of our funding, all of our resources to Ukraine. Even though President Biden would probably do that, that's not something that we can do. The Pentagon would push back because we cannot give another country all of our resources when we cannot replenish our stockpile. We already are having an issue replenishing our stockpile from missiles and equipment we have sent to Ukraine over the past 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And so that's not something that we can do. Now, what else? Well, here's the other issue. If the Democrats do not agree to a border security deal with Republicans, there will be no $60 billion to Ukraine. Now, that $60 billion is supposed to last an entire year, if not a little bit more. So here's where some are saying this might be the where everything kind of falls back. Is instead of $60 billion, maybe Republicans agree to $20 billion, but in exchange, they don't ask for as much of a border security policy. They don't ask for funding for the U.S. border, which, according to reports, we need funding and we need policy changes. Those are two things that we absolutely need. There's no way we can go around it. Okay? So, that is the issue. Now, let's talk about a potential war. Is the United States going to go to war with Russia and with China? The simple answer is it could happen, but the more complex answer is no. Would the United States potentially be at a war? Yes. The problem is, or the solution is, the United States would not be the ones going to attack China, go and defend Taiwan. Would we send a U.S. Navy ship? Most likely, there's already some in the area, but we would be using our allies. Okay? Other countries, the United States, especially in an election year, cannot go and start a war with Russia, can't start a war with China. If this happens, Democrats and President Biden would lose handedly in the upcoming election. That's at least according to multiple reports. Now, what should you expect? Well, expect tensions to stay high. If President Biden, and again, I want to be very clear on this, we do not know who the next president of the United States is going to be. Many Democrats say they would never vote for a Democrat again. Many Republicans say they would not vote for former President Donald Trump again. So if some say they won't vote for one candidate and others say they're not going to vote for the other candidate, we don't know what's going to happen. Okay? But what I can tell you is if former President Donald Trump wins, then a war with Russia or China could be possible. I don't think he's going to go to war, but he is going to make both countries know that the United States is under a different leader, and he is not going to sit back and let China invade Taiwan. He's not going to sit back and let Russia just do whatever they want. The United States would be the leader. Now, if President Biden wins, this is the concern, is we may not see anything change from what is currently happening. Our border could still remain open. That is always a possibility. The next thing is we may see this war between Russia and Ukraine drag out for another 2 or 3 years. That's always a possibility. And the tensions between China and the United States will remain high for at least the next administration. So that's kind of where we're at this point. President Biden continues to threaten the American people over what ifs and what could happen. So just understand that's always a possibility, but that is currently where we're at. So just wanted to fill you in on what's going on as of today. That is currently what we know. But again, as soon as we know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. But again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.